All right, guys, we are back for another episode of the Tell No Lies podcast. I am your host, Devin Physique, and alongside the lovely co-host, Dr. Ashley Contorno.
That's me.
Yeah. And today we are going to be talking about steroids.
Steroids, baby.
You get a shot, and you get a shot.
Very controversial, very real, very raw. I have some shit to say. You have some shit to say.
We always got some shit
We
to
always
say.
got some shit to
Yeah.
say. We didn't really discuss where we were going to start. Like, are we just going to start right with my huge clitoris or what?
I mean,
Because, I mean, it's taking up space. You know what I'm saying?
that's actually a good topic to talk about
Let's
because
start there.
I feel like a lot of girls that potentially dabble into doing it don't think the
Oh,
repercussions.
they don't think it's going to happen to you.
Correct.
It's gonna happen to
just like
you.
all the different other things that people don't think is going to happen to them.
Yeah, I actually read a study a long time ago that was talking about enlargement of the female clitoris. And there is a threshold, kind of like a top end of which it grows to. And it's somewhere in the realm of 3 inches.
That's like the
top end.
That's the longest it could go.
And now I'm sure that there's variation within that, but measured in clinical studies, that is the largest that was measured of the study that I read. I was trying to like get some data of like how big is mine, like for real. Because I saw, it's hard to know in the moment when it's happening, right? So I guess I need to back up and say that I have done performance enhancing steroids. I did my first cycle in 2018. I was a power lifter training for my first pro competition. And I was like, I ain't going to be the only bitch natty. So I jumped on.
Now, did you feel like that was an expectation of you,
Yeah.
and that's why you did it? Like,
Yeah.
was there any sort of pressure aligned with wanting to be a pro and be in that top tier, where you said to yourself, like, if I don't do steroids, I'm never going to be in that top tier, so I have to do it?
Yes and no. I would say yes in the sense of like I want to be with those girls, but no in the sense of like I was invited to that pro meet based on my performance without it. But I felt like now that I'm going with the pros, I need that extra edge that they're going to have. I want to be the best of the best with the best. Whereas I was just one of the best, but I needed everyone else. Literally, I would have been the only natty girl on stage.
Now, is that regulated where they have powerlifting that's natural and powerlifting that's not?
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy because I feel like all the top tier ones, it's all performance enhanced, right? There's like no one really gives a shit about the natty bodybuilding shows. And
Right.
no one really cares about the natty probably powerlifting. It's like everyone's just juicing it up.
There is a section of powerlifting that's a whole drug tested federation called Powerlifting America, IPF. It's like, it's really big. And there's diehard natty powerlifters, but like to be honest, it ain't as fun to watch because they're not as strong. There are some strong, like at the top of the natty powerlifting, there are motherfuckers that are as strong as the top non-tested, like performance enhanced athletes. It's pretty
So
incredible.
everything that you did up until that taking a cycle, it was all natural.
Yeah, I had some national records for bench. I had state records for bench. And I just felt like it was time to, progress. And I started kind of where a lot of females start. I started with Anavar, orals. A lot of females start with orals. And I started with Primo, which is an injectable. And I did steroids from 2018 to 2023. And I actually doled it out one day and I wrote out how many cycles I did and how many weeks each of them were. I did 7 cycles in that time. So that's 5 years. I did 7 cycles. I only cycled when I was in competition, and one time did I do one off-season cycle. Everything else was preparing for me, because for me it was like, is the risk worth the reward? Like, I've seen a lot of women who've had some ton of side effects from steroids. Everyone on the internet thinks I'm a dude, perpetually calls me a man, whatever. But the side effects that I was experiencing happened really slowly over time. So in reference to my clit, I'm telling the world right now, okay, we're doing this.
You
I
are.
did it to myself.
I mean, you started
I
this.
did,
You
I
just
did.
said big clit, and I'm just like, that's a great way to start this one.
We are going hard.
Oh.
Literally. So I found a picture. I remember when Steven and I first started dating, we had sex so much that he tore my vagina. And I was never
I've
into
had that
like
happen to me before. Not to me, but not to me. Not to me, but I've heard that story.
Yes, it's very uncomfortable. And it's like, it's hard to tell because it's obviously inside of the canal, like where it's at. And it's like almost like a paper cut where the smallest, teeniest little tear hurts a lot. So I was like constantly taking pictures like of my vagina at that time, trying to find this fucking tear. And I did.
Were you guys like opening it up like, hello?
No, I was like with a mirror, and I like had a mirror and a light and my phone, and I was getting, this was a private matter.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course, yeah.
So, because I was never really into like pictures or filming at the time. So, several years later, when I finally was like, how big has she gotten? I was like, I need a reference photo. So, I went back and I found one of those pictures that I was taking at the time, and she probably triple or quadruple the size. Now, mind you, everybody uses that as like the biggest thing. Like, oh my God, huge clitoris. You probably had like a monstrous clit. I've never gotten a complaint. Like, it's easier to find. You know what I'm saying? Like, motherfuckers now don't need a map, don't need to find the fucking treasure by going on a hunt. They can find it right there. She's
And
large.
they probably still lost some of them.
No.
She said no.
She's easy to
No,
find.
I'm saying some people are still lost.
So it was like something like that where you think it's not going to happen to you, whatever. It's so, over 5 years it took to get to the size that it is. It was so slow and progressive over time that I didn't really notice at the time. And additionally, I was with my husband who
was never making you feel some type of way about it.
Right.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you, like, just like anything else, right? We look at ourselves in the mirror every single day and we don't notice changes.
Right.
But we can look at a picture from when we started a prep or something or started a diet and then look at a month and go, wow, we made such progression. So it's kind of different from a different angle to go, okay, I'm looking at my clit, which I essentially look at every single day.
Yeah.
Using the restroom, getting naked, whatever. But never in that time period did you see any type of, there wasn't that one period where you just go, oh, okay, it's looking like it's changing.
I don't remember when I actually was like, how big has she gotten? But I did mess up a cycle where I thought I was taking Anavar, and it was in a foreign language, and it was Anadrol.
Oh, wow.
And I was taking like
It's a good one.
25 mgs.
Oh, man.
Yeah, a lot. Like split up like twice a day, like 12 and 12. That's a lot. I grew facial hair during that. So I think this was the cycle that kind of like did the deed. I grew like a beard and mustache. And I think that's when my clit grew the most. And the hair on my legs changed. Like, I've never really had to shave the hair on my legs a lot. It got coarse all on the insides of my thigh.
You were like a werewolf.
To the point where it was like causing friction. Like, it was like pubic hair on my legs. and then my voice changed the most. Like, I don't think I have a super masculine voice. A lot of people are like, no, I don't. But then there's also people on the internet, they're like, lay off the road, you fucking voice. A lot of times microphones pick up the baritone in my voice more than in person. But I took Winstrol for a competition, and that one I could tell it changed my voice, and I actually stopped it in cycle. But I ended up getting electrolysis for a year and a half.
What's that?
Laser hair removal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for my face, my mustachio, my beard, my legs.
Now, when you say you were growing a beard and a mustache, were you actually letting it grow?
No, I was shaving it.
But you just saw the hairs coming in.
Yes, like it would, like my whole life. I'm Italian. I've had like darker hair, and like I have like a couple chin hairs that come through, and I was like, these are way more than a couple. Then to the point where I'm in the shower, I'm shaving my pits, I'm shaving my, and it's like, I feel like a lot of women go into steroids with like, okay, I'm going to do it, but if this side effect happens, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out. Like they start hearing like, oh, if I get to this, and whatever that limit is, it's like, oh, my voice. Oh, I get hair here. Oh, my clitoris grows. Oh, my jawline changes. Oh, my hair loss. But then that consequence happens. And then they're like, oh, well, it's not that bad. So it's this one. And then they keep just meeting and raising the bar to new side effects and new consequences. And before you know it, yeah, you're in this road where like I have a lot of friends and they're open about it, but like they're getting hair transplants, and a lot of women do hair removal, and a lot of women have a voice that maybe they don't like anymore. Like I have a friend who can't sing anymore because she did steroids, and that was a huge part of her, freedom and well-being, is something she loved to do, and now she can't sing because she can't hit those octaves anymore, and she just did steroids. So I feel like for a woman, it's a choice that it's not if you're going to get side effects, it's when and how many, like period. So it's like, if you are going into doing steroids, you have to know that there will be consequences, there will be side effects. And is this choice that you're making worth all of those consequences and side effects? And if any women have any questions on this, like DM me, whatever, be nice. But I will talk to you about it because I've experienced what I would say all of them. And even low libido. People think steroids, oh my God, your libido's through the roof. I am the horniest motherfucker I know. And I decreased my libido while on steroids.
Wait, it's been decreased?
Yeah.
Well, wait, what? Really?
No, while I was on.
Okay.
Yeah, not right now. Not
Okay,
right
okay.
now. Yeah, so it's like, I think women think, oh, if I just take a little bit of Anavar, a little bit of this, or it doesn't matter. They're androgenic compounds. They're male sex hormone compounds. It's only a matter of time until you get something. And it's like when you do a cycle and then you stop, you were here and then you're here. When you do another one, you pick off where you left off. You don't start back from baseline. You're now at this level of androgenic hormonal balance in you. You already have this much side effects compounded. You just keep compounding them every time you do it. And I think people think, you can get back to baseline, but honestly, it's just more every time.
Yeah, that's wild. And what compounds do you feel like are really directed towards your clit? Would you say all of them are susceptible to that? Like if you just ran Anavar, and let's say Anavar and Clen, those are pretty common for females. I feel like those are the two compounds that most girls run. Is your clit going to get big off that, you think?
Well, so clenbuterol is just a fat
burner,
it's not a fat burner. It's a bronchodilator. It's going to increase your metabolism. I would say, yes, it's a performance-enhancing drug, but I'm going to separate androgenic compounds versus all other performance-enhancing drugs, right? Because caffeine could be a performance-enhancing drug.
True.
You know what I'm saying? But any type of androgen, they're all testosterone derivatives. They all aromatize into test in your body. It's all going to increase your testosterone. And so I think it doesn't matter. There's no safe androgenic drug that is going to spare you from any and all side effects. That's what they labeled SARMs as, selective androgen modulating receptors. Like they're just supposed to be receptor modulators, better than PEDs, but they're not. And they actually have more side effects because some of them, aren't even as tested.
Well, I feel like most people would say those are the pussies that don't want to inject, that they take that. Well, it's just like pro-hormones, right? Like when you take those, the same thing. I feel like it's worse than actually just injecting because you have to get a pill, which means you have to formulate that and then to go through your liver and all the other things. It's just way harsher on your body. And to piggyback what you said earlier about like taking it to a degree, and when you say, I'm going to stop as soon as X, Y, and Z happens, I remember for me, when I took my first pro-hormone, I was like, as soon as I get to 160, I just want to get to 160 and that's it. And now it's like it's been a life style of pinning since.
Yeah, it's so hard to stop. I think the psychological effects compounded with the physical effects are so tantalizing, so enticing, so intoxicating that it's so hard to stop. And like literally my reality check happened in one way and it might have happened in another way. So my reality check happened when Steven died. My husband died from using performance enhancing drugs and extreme dieting from bodybuilding. It was the combination of them both. It wasn't one, it wasn't the other, but they can be very, like, we're going to talk about consequences of steroid use outside of just physiologic changes. So he passed away and then I was still in prep for competition. I was doing the American Pro. It's the biggest powerlifting competition in the United States for untested powerlifting. And he died in June and it was supposed to be in October. And I was like, you know what? Steven would want me to do this competition. Like, I'm going to go, I'm going to do it. And then, so I wasn't on drugs at that time, but I started my cycle like 12 weeks before the competition. 2 weeks out, I tore my shoulder while bench pressing. And I was like, oh my God, how can I still do this meet? Like, okay, I can do like a token bench. Like I can do, 130-pound bench. I can still squat 500. I could still deadlift 500. And my brain was like just psychosis, like thinking of all the ways, this one track mind of how I could still do this competition. And I was just like, what are you doing? Is this really worth your life? Is this really worth your health? Like your husband literally died, couldn't snap out of this. He was seeing all these warning signs that literally killed him and ignoring them all for the sport. And you're trying to do the same on a different level. And I was like, I don't ever want to do drugs again. Never did drugs again. And I kept a bunch of them, like just in case, because that was my crazy steroid psychosis mentality of like, I might want to do, I might just do a little bit.
Yeah.
And the only thing I do now is peptides. I will never touch a performance enhancing drug ever again, an androgenic compound ever again. I feel like unless you're really, really high in your sport and at that top level performance, there's no world where it's worth the risk. Like for me personally, as a female. So the other route that I could have stopped steroids is if Steven wouldn't have died, he was going to compete in June, I was going to compete in October, and then we were going to have kids. But who knows if that would have ever happened? Like, what if we couldn't have kids? We couldn't have adopted because, unfortunately, my husband is a little bit of a felon. So, you know what I'm saying? So we couldn't have adopted kids.
They'd look at his record and say, "You ain't getting no kid."
You can't adopt kids as a felon.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He got it when he was like, it was young and dumb, doing something dumb. But so it was like if we couldn't have kids naturally, we weren't going to. And if that wouldn't happen, we probably would have continued our sport. So who knows? But like, I'm glad I did, and we could post some pictures. 2021, Ashley, the internet was right for calling me looking like a man because
Yeah, you were jacked.
he looking like a man.
Yeah. It made sense why you squatted all that way and
Yeah.
did all the things.
I was gnarly huge. Like,
But what's still crazy is like even from then to now, like it's a huge difference, but you're still just as, I'm not just as strong, but relatively close
yeah.
to the same strength that you were then. So it's like imagine putting that strength to the test of like adding steroids, like how fucking strong you really were.
yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm a really strong and genetic anomaly as far as being a strength athlete in general, which is why I got to the pro level of powerlifting as a natural athlete. And then I did steroids and I was the 4th ranked powerlifter in the world. And then, you know, now I just did a competition in April and I won the whole thing. Like, yeah, it was a local competition, but I could still hang with the best of them.
Now, and just like with bodybuilding and this, was there money in the sport?
Yeah.
So like, was it enough to, I mean, I guess nothing validates doing what could potentially happen by doing steroids, but you know, like even the top tier bodybuilders now, like there's a cash prize that would incentivize them to keep going. Like what was the prize money for something like that of the high caliber?
I would say collectively in my 5 years as a pro powerlifting athlete, I probably won like $20,000, which is not nothing, but it probably only was enough to pay for my way to do these competitions. Think about it. It's a flight. I would take my handler, Chandler, my husband, myself, flights, food, Airbnb, accommodations. You're there for a week. Sometimes we'd stay a couple days after, make a little mini vacation out of it. I won $5,000 at the meet. There it goes.
Paid for everything.
Yeah, so it paid for the hobby.
Yeah.
I don't regret it personally because we had the gym. We were both the faces of the gym. Our respective sports helped grow our gym, grew our gym. South Bay Strength Company, shout out. And like, if it wasn't for where we were in our sports, I don't think the gym would have been as successful because there's a powerlifting bodybuilding gym, so it took both of us. Would I ever do it again, like for any reason under the sun? No. To me, it's not worth it. And like, I just feel like females and steroids, like, you know, like you started, it's just so casual now, like how people talk about steroids. And you did it, this is like, what, 10 years ago? More than that.
20.
Okay, so 14 years ago.
When I actually did like real steroids.
Yeah.
But I was like 19 when I did the pro hormones, which they were legal at the time. So, I mean, you could go to a NutriShop and buy them over the counter. So I wouldn't have considered that like a steroid really, but now it's banned, you know, obviously as the years gone on, they've banned a lot of different substances that were once legal. I mean, even pre-workouts.
Yeah.
There were some pre-workouts they took back in the day that no longer are allowed to be on the shelf.
Yeah. But like, think about 14 years ago, how like, you know, someone's like, oh, you want to get big? Here's what you do. Like back then, what you did is you just found the biggest dude in the gym. And you asked him, where do you get the supplements? And then they hooked you up with the supplements, right? Like, that's kind of how that's how Steven started drugs. Like, that's how a lot of people I know start drugs. But now, like, social media, it's everywhere. Like, there's pages dedicated to showing how to inject drugs, what drugs people use, talking about cycles. And sometimes it's in the face of, like, health promotion, but really, like, the more education that's out there, the more people that are going to do it who may have not have done it before.
I think there's some companies, I want to say I don't know, so I can't quote this as a factual thing, but like Transcend, I think is one that I've seen. Like there's a lot of people that are sponsored by, it's called Transcend or something. I don't know if they prescribe you steroids or how that works in that, but at least there's some circumstances where people are trying to keep it healthy within, like you said, it's so out there that there's no way to regulate it.
Right.
Where if someone is going to, then there is some companies where they try to enforce like the health aspect, where it's like get your blood work done, all these other things, and then they prescribe you steroids based off of your blood work. So there are some companies that have utilized that to make it where, hey, if you're going to do it, come to us so that we can at least regulate you in a way where you're not just going to your, random little, like you said, the biggest dude in the gym. And that's the other thing too, is how do you know his shit's legit?
Right.
It's not overdosed, which a lot of them are.
Or underdosed.
When I first got encounter with a guy, I remember it was someone at the gym that I was friends with back at my hometown. He was bigger and he just got on a cycle, and I learned my education through him, which he probably didn't even know that much.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time he actually injected me for me, I was so fucking nervous. I was like sweating and like, oh my God, I thought I was gonna fucking pass out. There was one time where I was with the first girlfriend of mine, and she had to give me a shot, and back then I was hiding it from my parents, so we would go in the bathroom, and I'll never forget, I was just so nervous. She was nervous. She gives me a shot and I fainted.
Really?
But only for like a couple of seconds, and like fell on her as it was in there.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I woke back up again, but it's like, yeah, there was a lot of nerves that went into it. Now I'm fucking like, oh, I got to do another shot. Like,
Yeah.
But I still love it. I mean, we talk about how like there's the consequences. And for me, like, I would take the risk every single day.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, even with this, the whole Steven thing, like I could look at that and go, oh my God, like, he died from, the extremes of steroids and then also prepping for a show. But that's not a lesson where I would go, oh, I'm going to stop. I would still do it.
Why?
I don't know. It's a part of me. I feel like that's the one drug that I feel like I don't know. It's part of my lifestyle. It's what I want to do. And if I died from it, I'd be okay with it. It wouldn't make me feel some type of way at all.
Like you're so accepting of everything that it is that if it was what like someone who doesn't want to quit smoking, like if it was what killed you, you'd be like, that's fine with me. It's
I would
something
be
I still
100%
do.
okay with it. That was one of the things too. If I dated a girl and she said I couldn't do it, then we wouldn't date.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I'm so passionate about that. Maybe because it's been part of my life for so long, and I don't view it like other recreational drugs that, stimulate you in a different way. And, like if we're talking about like crack and heroin and all these fucking crazy drugs, like for me, it's like it contributes to what I'm doing. And yes, there's always going to be, what do you call it? Repercussions for different things that you do, but you do your best around those parameters. But, like when you tell me this Steven story, there wasn't a part of me that said, oh my God, that happened to him, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
If anything, I'm like, the next day I was putting Tren in my ass.
I mean, thank you for that. Appreciate it. In Steven's honor.
Yeah,
Tren.
right? I mean, and Steven would probably say the same thing. Like, I think anyone that's done it for a long period of time and you see people die and stuff, you just say to yourself, like, that's part of it.
No, I
What do you
would
mean?
completely disagree. I would say the majority of people would say it is not worth literally dying.
The people that do it, or you're saying the people in general?
I would say
I think that if we lined up 100 men that had been on a cycle for at least 5 years, okay, been doing steroids for 5 years.
I guess it's hard to no, competitive athletes and regular people, I feel like are two different things.
Now, would that scare people that have never taken it? Yes, I believe that would. That would be a reason why they wouldn't do it. But I don't believe that someone seeing, like even, Dallas McGarver, he passed away from steroids. Like so many big bodybuilders have died
hundreds of people have died from steroids.
How many of them have stopped doing it after seeing the tragic deaths and they post about them? None.
I don't know. I don't know that.
I don't think anyone's stopping.
I've had a lot of people message me saying that they're not, or they're at least going to be smarter about it and not be blind and pretend like they're okay, because it's not, for the most part, it's not the now that hurts you. It's not the Devin right now that's 34 years old that's like, I did Tren the day after I heard Steven died and I don't give a fuck and this is my lifestyle.
It's the later.
It's 20 years from now when your liver's failing.
Here's a great example, okay? What do you call it? Ronnie Coleman, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where it was asked, but someone asked him if you had to redo your entire life, and because you look at him, he can't even fucking walk.
Yeah.
He's on so many medications, like he looks miserable. And then you compare him to Jay Cutler, and Jay Cutler's still like, looks like he's in his youth, but he always says he never used a lot of steroids. Like he was very cautious about what he was doing. Well, Ronnie Coleman lifted extremely heavy, probably took a lot of steroids. He said, I wouldn't have changed a single thing. I would do it all over again.
But he's also a multi-fucking millionaire. So it's like...
So no, what I'm saying is no one taking steroids is thinking in the longevity of like, oh, I'm going to worry about how I feel later down the road. That's part of it.
I feel like people do the same thing with going through the McDonald's drive-thru. right? Like eating like shit. It's when there's no, like, steroids do have an immediate satisfaction of consequences, right? There's positive consequences and negative consequences. And I feel like the positive consequences are all such short-term, immediate gains that they completely outweigh the long-term negative consequences, right? Like, all of the organ enlargement and the health consequences of your liver and your kidneys, those are the long-term negative consequences. Or high blood pressure that now you have to maintain, enlarged heart that now you have to maintain. But looking good, feeling good, fucking good, all that stuff, those short-term, are those positive benefits that people just overlook anything that's long-term. And I'm not here to convince anybody one way or the other, or say like no one should be doing steroids, because fuck, I did it. I think there's just extremes in our culture that should be avoided. And some of them are the amount. Like Steven was doing grams of drugs. Like I would say your drug use is pretty responsible, but like you don't really come off, which that I don't love. So let's talk about blast and cruise, because we were talking about that.
Well, okay, real quick before we do that. So I've only had one instance where there was one of the things that I took and I had a real scare. So I think that if there was a scare attached to something that I did, that would make me think. Like I'm not going to look at Steven and go, oh, he just took an excess amount, contributing to also doing the show. That's why he died. So I'm gonna stop. But like I took insulin and I haven't done it since when I had my issue with it. So I took insulin. Had a buddy that was telling me how to regulate it with the amount per, and then how much carbs to shuttle in so that
insulin is so scary,
you don't go hypoglycemic and all that stuff. So I don't remember what I did wrong, but I remember after the gym, I took my second shot of insulin because I would do pre and post, and I would load up with my carbs pre, load up with my carbs post. I don't remember what I did wrong in that second portion, and I went and hung out with this girl at the time, and we were smoking weed, and I remember we were smoking, and then all of a sudden I just woke up and I was in the ambulance, and it flashes of that, and then I'm in the hospital.
Damn.
And then finally when I was able to obviously repair myself and be able to be alert of what was going on, I had a seizure.
Damn.
And so obviously my they said my sugar levels were super low.
Hypo as shit.
They were like, I don't even know how you were alive. So
probably
I don't know
in the teens.
Yeah. So somewhere down that line in that, I don't know if it was the smoking aspect, if I ate something that had maybe fats in it, because you're supposed to avoid having any fats during that phase in which you're doing that insulin spike.
I mean, like 1 or 2 IUs over can kill you.
Yeah. So after that incident, and I went into the hospital and I had all these fucking seizure pads on me. I remember they were like, like, we're doing all these tests on you. They had to give me a bunch of sugar to get me back to normal levels. And I was just like, I knew what it was, but I didn't, at that time I was like, well, fuck, if I tell them, am I going to be in trouble? Am I going to get arrested? So like, I just was like, can you guys let me go? Like, no, we got to do more tests. And I'm like, I know what it is. And then they asked me and I was like, fuck it, it was insulin. And then, shortly after they ended up letting me go. But after that incident happened, I've never touched it again because of that incident happening. So I would say that if something I took caused me to have something similar to that, I probably would
short-term negative consequence.
Yeah, I would reevaluate what I take it again, because since that day I've never taken insulin ever again. So that would be an instance in which I would feel like I would think that way.
Let me ask you a hard question then. When was the last time you got your blood work done? On camera.
Like a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
see, when I was doing that is when I had a coach, and that was what his protocol was, is like, do the blood, get your blood test done, so that way he can tell me what compounds to take based off of that.
Yeah. So if you're not monitoring your health, because a lot of stuff that happens is under the hood.
Yeah.
How do you know you're not experiencing?
Yeah, you don't.
You just,
it just till it comes out.
Till you shitting blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm speaking this way in the sense that I'm sure a lot of people are doing it the way that I do it.
Yeah.
I definitely have never taken it as serious as I should.
Yeah.
Outside of like, oh, okay, take these compounds, run these, dosages, whatever, come off, do a post cycle, whatever. I mean, even there's times where I don't come off. I hate coming off. Then you feel normal, and I hate feeling normal.
That's the blast and cruise.
Yeah.
So blasting is when you're on cycle, and cruising, this is more male centric. Cruising is when you come off cycle, but you never come off. You just do a cruising dose of TRT.
Yeah.
Who
threw that in there? The TRT. Just
it's
as a subtle way to say, I'm only doing testosterone.
Yeah, it's people wanting to convince themselves.
My testosterone's low, so I got it prescribed to me.
But so that's what those companies do, like Maverick, Transcend, Helix. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
That it's basically, a lot of them are geared towards towards athletes where it is blood monitoring and then they'll prescribe you, but they usually only prescribe testosterone. Like they're not prescribing Winstrol, Anadrol, stuff like that. It's just only test. But at least that is done under the supervision of a doctor, of a physician, and they'll usually prescribe it at a higher rate than what like a general physician will. But that's all cash pay out of pocket. So now you're adding in an additional layer of cost where you're buying the pharmaceuticals from them, you're buying the blood tests from them, they're monitoring you as opposed to getting it from Joe Schmo for $100 a bottle versus that's probably $250 a month, $300 a month. So it's like, yeah, a lot of people are going to go towards that cheaper option because they don't want to pay for all that. A lot of people just don't do blood work because they don't want to pay for it. To go to your doctor and say, hey, I need my blood work done because I'm on performance enhancing drugs, the doctor's going to say, I can't justify that with insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So then you got to pay cash. And it's just like, I wish it was legal. I wish all of these steroids were legal. So that way people could go through the proper channels, get tested, get it regulated, or insurance would cover it, whatever you want to say. Maybe you could add a premium layer to your insurance, like the athlete package, and it covers all of this stuff. Because realistically, there are going to be long-term consequences that you're going to have for your health. Like I said, managing blood pressure, having heart issues, having liver issues 10, 15, 20 years down the line that are from what you're doing now. And if it was medically managed more regularly, you might not have these long-term side effects to deal with as a consequence.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people get into this and they're influenced by people that aren't educated either.
Right.
I think it's more so when you get into competing. I feel like that is where the topic of discussion comes in. Look at you. You did it because of the competing, right? If you had never competed, you probably would have never done any of it.
No.
You know, it was the competing aspect where it ramps up even more. Like when I was taking it then, it was just mildly. And then when I got into competing, that's where I started to learn about so many other compounds. And what are you doing? You're confining yourself into a belief of your coach that he's going to prescribe you the right medicine that you need for each competition. But how do you know he even knows what the fuck he's talking about?
You don't.
You're putting your trust in him because he knows more than you know. And I think that's how I started too, is like, oh, okay, my coach said take this. No one's thinking about, like you said, the repercussions of what it is 10 years from now or 20 years from now. You're just like, oh, my coach said to take it. Okay, cool. I'm doing this show. Like everyone else is doing it. We've talked about this on a lot of podcasts. We kind of just go with what everyone else is doing. Oh, she's doing it or he's doing it. Okay, all right, I'll do it too.
Yeah, there's no real certification or regulation for a steroid coach. And like the day my husband died, his blood pressure was out of control low. He was dizzy. He couldn't stand. He was pale. Like every single warning sign that his liver had already gone was there. But those are all side effects of bodybuilding, right? Like bodybuilding as a sport, you ignore all of the things that are going wrong with your body because to get to that sub-level of body fat with that much muscle mass on that restrictive of a diet, there are red flags that have to happen. My husband's coach told him when his blood pressure was like 80/50, his heart rate was 120, all the signs saying that his body's shutting down and his heart is trying to pump more blood because it's failing, because he was actually bleeding internally at the time, so his blood pressure was so low. You know what his coach's response was?
Tell me.
No stimulants tomorrow.
But see, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot that are just like that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
Like you
Taylor,
just
need
straight,
to stop coaching.
You just straight up ignored all the signs and said just don't do any stimulants.
Yeah, no stims tomorrow, and have a cheat meal.
Oh.
He was a burger and fries for the night, and then no stims tomorrow.
See, and I also wonder with these coaches like that, right? And even talking about this one, like, what do they feel in themselves when these types of things happen to people that they were under watch for?
I don't know, but I on the day of Steven's death 2 weeks ago, I sent Blue the nastiest message, like telling him, like, I'm glad you get to go to bed next to your wife every single night because for the rest of my life, I'll never get to sleep next to my husband. You're a piece of shit. And the fact that he still is coaching people to this day when he has bodies under his name, like, I'm not saying he directly, like, slit my husband's throat and murdered him, but my husband, if Blue Taylor would have said, Steven, I need you to eat 3 pieces of dog shit for dinner tonight, my husband would have said the male or female dog. Like, that is how anything that this man said he would have done because he believed in his coach, that his coach knew best.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just blindly believing these people that they're going to take us to the promised land when you're really playing with people's lives. When you get that close to a show and you're that lean and that dehydrated and you're manipulating those variables, you can kill people. And he did. He killed my husband, basically. And it's just, I mean, that's a large accusation, but if he wasn't following his protocol to a T, he wouldn't have died.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
And it goes back to what I said. Like when you hire a coach, why would I do the opposite of what he's telling me to do?
Right.
That's what I'm paying him for. So yeah, unfortunately, we were dealing with the severities of steroids and what the repercussions could be. But if my coach at the time said, do this, I would have done it too, because that's what he's telling you to do. That's what you're paying him for. That's why you went to him in the first place. So I feel like that's a huge, huge dynamic as far as, that goes, so.
As far as like you were an influencer for such a long time, and I know you mentioned in your Shreds episode, or one that we talked about before, you weren't really transparent about you doing steroids. Back then, I don't think steroids were as prevalent as they are now. But what are your opinions on, do you feel like big athletes like that are huge on social media, especially bodybuilding, do they have a social responsibility to talk about their drug use? Or do you think they shouldn't because they're going to be influencing people?
Now, when you say drug use, do you say like they should be saying exactly what they're saying or just that they're on it?
Either way, what do you think?
I don't like if someone asks me, like, I get messages like, what cycle are you on? Like, if I post a story of me shirtless and I'm looking like dialed in, a lot of people ask me, what do I take? And I just tell them, like, I'm on, but I'm not going to tell you what I'm taking because I don't want you to replicate what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that's always been my response, because then I do feel some type of way. If I told him my protocol, whether he went and did it himself or not, that's on him, right? But I don't want to feel that responsibility of me telling somebody, oh, this is what my cycle is. So I always refrain from saying exactly what it is. And if I do, maybe I say, oh, test and this and this and this, but I don't talk about dosage amounts or anything like that. And I feel like for me, I'd rather just not say what I'm on. I'm telling you I'm on it. That's enough. So I do believe that as we've progressed in the community with fitness, and how, in one of the other episodes, I talked about how, there was that taboo of like, if you take steroids, you're a cheater, so like I always felt shunned, or like walking on tiptoes about, like, if someone asked me, I would lie because that just felt comfortable for me. I didn't need to tell them my personal business. Now I'm more open about it. So now people come to me, but now they want to ask questions and they want to know all the layers to it. And that's where I'm like, I don't want to be responsible. So I feel like it's the hit and miss with that. I think if you're going to promote a supplement and you're taking the steroids, I think that if someone came to you and asked you, are these the supplements in which you're getting the results from, I think that's where the transparency needs to come in. Because even for me with Shreds, like in those days, there was still that limbo of like, I'm not telling people I'm taking steroids, maybe a select few, but I also was pushing this in an incentive like, this is going to get you the results. It's not getting me the results, but it's going to get you the results for what you're trying to achieve. So I think that's where I would put that stance on, like, how much do you tell? Because also, like, how naive do you have to be to look at someone and go, okay, that dude's on juice?
I didn't know. Literally.
But how do you not know?
I was so naive to like, until
I said, I go, how can you be so naive? I was so naive.
I was so naive. Until I met Steven, you could line up 100 people on drugs.
Maybe it's different for a girl.
Maybe, but also there's people who do drugs who do not look like they even work out.
Yeah.
But I would say I just thought everybody who was big kind of just got that way. I never was in the world of drugs. I never realized how prevalent doing steroids is. I actually looked up a statistic before we did this, that of people who regularly lift weights, which is constituted as 3 days a week or more for a period of 10 years, 47% of men and 42% of women have at least tried steroids. I'm not sure, tried could be one tablet, one injection, or a cycle, but that's almost half.
Yeah.
3 days a week for 10 years. In that window, there was like 6,000 people interviewed. Half, men and women close to, have done or tried steroids. So it's a pretty large number of people who are in the fitness community. But I really just thought that, like, oh, they're jacked. I didn't know.
I feel like the more intensely I got into this space, I felt like it was contributing to me getting even better results, and that's why it enticed me to do it.
Yeah.
Versus like someone who doesn't treat fitness very serious, isn't really good with their diet, all those types of things, that wouldn't incentivize me to take steroids. I also don't drink too. So I feel like I try to minimize the other things that would make it worse, because there's a lot of friends of mine that take steroids and then they're out every weekend partying too. So I couldn't imagine, what that would put on you, like who's a great example? John Skywalker. I don't know if you know who that is, but like he's dealing with a lot of stuff right now. I showed you his feet. I
Oh,
mean, how
yeah.
fat his feet were. And I know a lot of that had to do with ketamine, but he still took steroids. And he was always someone when I looked at him that did it even more careless than me. And then again, we've talked about this too, where it's like what we earlier were talking about, like we have a lot of people that are looking up to us as an example. And so I looked at him as like he's doing all this crazy lifestyle, raving, steroids, all these heavy drugs, probably not dieting correctly, not treating his body right. And you just said, look at the repercussions of what he's dealing with now. I mean, he doesn't even look like he lifts anymore. His
Right.
body is so morphed, and then he's got these fat fucking feet, And so I would be curious to ask him that question because remember, you see the Steven situation, you see him, and I can still look at myself and say I would still take steroids.
Yeah.
It wouldn't change my dynamic. And I still do other drugs on the side randomly when I feel like it, but I'm still cautious of those things. But until, like you said in your other video the other day when on Steven's actual death day, it was like no one's going to actually think about the repercussions until it happens to you. And I'm one of those people. I can sit here right now and say I'm going to do steroids, I'm going to keep doing it, but when that day comes, if it ever happens where it got to that severity, that's when I would look myself in the mirror and say, this is my day now. Am I going to continue, or am I going to go, okay, this is my life lesson to stop? So I would be curious to know with the John Skywalker situation, does he look himself in the mirror and say, as soon as I'm healed and I'm back to the normal John Skywalker, am I going to do it more?
I would hope not.
Because he's gone through a lot of fucking shit, and that's the part where I sympathize in those areas where you are careless and you're doing the steroids and then you're doing the drugs and everything else, and then it just consumes you.
I think that you have a lot of steroid ego. Like steroids, especially Tren, affects you from the neck up more than the neck down. It's more of a psychoactive drug than it is a compound that affects your body. You get this. I used to have a podcast before, and I did 2 whole episodes just on the psychological effects of steroids and how it changes your brain chemistry and how it gives you this ego and God complex. And the amount of tunnel vision and avoiding negative consequences that it gives you is very similar to like the inhibition that you can get from different drugs or alcohol, where you get this complex where you're literally ignoring parts of your reality. And I think for you, probably until you woke up in liver or kidney failure, would you even address the fact that you have this issue that's going on. But that's not my decision. That's your decision, and it's your life, and people can do whatever they like. But for me, I would just like people to go into steroids. The amount of conversations I've had with kids at my gym who are 17 to 22 years old, considering doing their first cycle or just started their first cycle, and telling them now what the rest of their life is going to look like. Like once you start performance enhancing drugs as a male, you have to do it forever. You're never going to produce the same amount of testosterone as you did. It can affect your ability to reproduce. It can affect your ability to grow, change, and fully develop the rest of the areas of your brain, just like how other drugs can. And people just think, oh my God, I want to get huge. And they don't think about all of the things that can happen. Like, do you literally want to be on this drug for the rest of your life? Like, you are 17 years old right now. Do you want this to affect your sperm count to the point where you might not be able to have children right now? Is it that important to you? Is it that worth it? And a lot of 17-year-olds will say yes, but at least let them make an informed decision and not just like, oh yeah, take this to get huge. Oh, now I have gyno. Now I have breasts. What do I do? Mm-hmm. Oh, now my dick doesn't work. What do I do?
Now I would wonder that, let's say I started when I was 20, so that was almost 15 years ago, since my birthday is about to come up. I wonder back in that time period and how it was not really influenced as much. I mean, no one was talking about it. It was really underground at that point. Like you said, you find the biggest guy in the gym and hush hush and, oh, okay, I'm going to come to your house and get it, blah, blah, blah. Like now it's so normalized. So a lot of 17-year-olds now are already influenced. So with the amount of knowledge that's out there, is it enticing them to question it more, or is it enticing them to do it more?
I think just do it. I still think they're not looking up the side effects as much because people are only talking about the positive consequences. There's not enough conversations surrounding the negative consequences of steroids, like steroid-induced psychosis. I have had many women, like I think last week I posted that video of talking about my husband dying, and 3 women reached out to me saying that their partners committed suicide from doing performance enhancing drugs, from getting in a
And that's actually a good topic to talk on right now too. Is the not just the repercussions of that, but what does that do to you mentally when you already have things on your
Oh,
plate?
yeah.
As like for instance, I have friends of mine that can't take Tren because of how aggressive it makes them, or
Yeah.
how much it controls their mind, and all these other things. So let's just take the steroids out of the equation. How is your own personal mental health before even getting into this space? Because that is a huge thing as well that I feel like isn't talked about as well. As the steroids is one thing, but how are you as a human being on day-to-day basis, and then adding compounds that are going to just spark this to a high degree? Because like I said, I have friends that take those compounds and they're just a completely different person, and that's one of the things I think people don't talk about either.
I think a lot of people have this vision that steroids just make you this gnarly, mean, aggressive person and you just want to punch everybody in the face. What I think steroids do, in my personal opinion, and I've witnessed as a gym owner for 7.5 years, hundreds of people doing drugs, it just amplifies characteristics of your personality that
The
were
real you.
already there.
Yeah, that's what I say that all the time. I say, I don't think the trend is causing you to be anything more than what you already were.
But it's amplified. And
Correct.
same thing, if you have mental health disorders, if you already have ever had suicidal ideations or anything like that, doing steroids, doing chemicals that are affecting your brain chemistry in that way are absolutely going to enhance those notions, are going to enhance your aggression, all of that. And if you're drinking and doing other drugs on top of it, it's just like it could be a recipe for disaster. Like I said, Tren acts more from the neck up than the neck down. Steven and I had a marital agreement that he was only allowed to do Tren while he was in prep, because it made him such a complete and motherfucking asshole that I hated him. We got in the gnarliest fight we ever got in our entire marriage while he was on Tren and prep for a show. Not the one that killed him, but the one before, to the point where I had to leave the house and go get a hotel because he was just being so mean, and he wouldn't stop fighting with me. And I'm like nothing that I said would make sense. And I'm just like a logical, rational person. I don't yell, I don't scream. I'm just like, I can't talk to you. I can't even be around you. Like, the sight of you is infuriating me because you are being so vile. I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I've never done that, and it sucks. And like, you take Tren all the time and it doesn't affect you in that way. So it is pretty variable.
I think the first time I took it, I remember there were circumstances in which it heightened my irritation, and I would find myself having to check myself and say, don't allow this, drug that you're taking to consume your mental brain. So, because I'm calm as fuck on it, and I feel like I take it more aggressively than most people do, but I also feel like I'm calm in general. So I can only imagine going through the journey of life and how your mental health can fluctuate depending on what you've been through. You could be at your worst end, and then you take some Tren and it really just fucking heightens you. So, I mean, there could have been periods in my life where I wasn't mentally where I'm at now, or just throughout the waves where maybe Tren affected me in some ways, or had me have those lulls where I would be kind of that way and not think of the way that I was acting in those manners. Like, I'm sure Steven probably didn't even realize he was doing that in the moment until the dust settled, and then he can actually compartmentalize, oh shit, you're right, I was being this way.
For sure.
It's kind of just a boom, just instant. You just kind of just act right on it.
Yeah.
And that's the responsible part of saying, okay, I have this addiction to drugs or to steroids, right? Because I could say I have an addiction to steroids, then, if you want to say it that way. But you have to know your limits to the ones you're taking. Like you said, you can't take it unless you're doing this prep. And he has to know, okay, yeah, this is going to be coming between my relationship if I keep taking this consistently.
Do addicts really know their limits? Because ultimately, Steven took
chasing
drugs.
a high.
Well, Steven took drugs until it killed him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just chasing the high that you never can chase, all right? It's like any other drug.
Yeah. I think most people who end up taking steroids get addicted to it. I would say that I even got addicted to it. Like, you get that strong, you get that hard, you get that, look, and you can't achieve it any other way. So what are you going to do? You're going to keep doing it. Just like heroin addicts get addicted to chasing that first time they ever got high because it felt so good. You're just trying to get bigger. When you looked at 160 was your limit, right? You look at yourself, 200-pound man, as 160 Devin, you're like, he was small as fuck.
Yeah.
But 100-pound Devin, when he started drugs, 160 was huge.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's your perspective just keeps, that bar just keeps rising and just keeps shifting, whether it's from the consequences, whether it's from your end goal. And it's really hard. I don't even know what would be something that could govern someone besides like a partner or someone else. But would you even listen?
Mm-hmm. And I would say 90% wouldn't.
Right.
How much tug and pull did it get for you to get him to actually agree to that?
It wasn't until after one of his preps that it was just, we constantly fought. And I was just like, listen, if you want to, it was me putting my foot down. If you want to keep competing, you can only do this compound while you're in prep. I will not tolerate it outside of prep. I actually made him quit bodybuilding. In 2021, when we moved our gym it was COVID actually, from the smaller gym to the bigger gym. I told him that, like, I need you present. I need you focused, because when he was in prep, and it wasn't just drugs, it was prep. Like, when you're in bodybuilding prep, nothing else in the world matters. At that level, you can only focus on prep. And I was like, we need to grow our business and I need you present. And then he started resenting me for making him quit. And I realized, as his wife, he supports me in everything I do. Whether I wanted to go to law school at one point, and he was like, let's do it. I got my doggy physical therapy education. Let's do it. Whatever it was. And if I wasn't doing that for him, what kind of wife was I?
Mm-hmm.
So I let him do it again. But one of the real reasons why I wanted him to stop was because of how unhealthy it was and how scared I was that he was going to die. And then 2 preps later, he did. But there wasn't even enough, the person who he loved the most in this world, there wasn't even enough draw there to get him to be safe about it.
Now, if you would have told him, I want you to stop completely, do you think he would have stayed with you?
I mean, he did.
Well, no, I'm saying stop doing steroids.
He only went down to, like, I told you there was only one time he went down to a cruise. It was that time. One time in our whole 7-year relationship that he went to just like a TRT dose. And I personally don't think TRT, if it's managed medically, is doing steroids. What do you think?
Like, if you're doing the appropriate dosages for actually, like, someone that's aging and their test levels are low, and
Just
you're
to
going
put
to
it
a
back
doctor
at 900.
to put it, to me, I wouldn't consider that, because you're only doing shots, 1 or 2 times a week, if that.
Or cream.
And most of those guys aren't actually working out to the level that we are. So when people say TRT, I'm like, I don't even say that. I'm like, no, I just fucking take steroids, like all of it. You know, I don't, even when I'm just on testosterone, I don't ever just tell someone, oh, I'm just on test right now. Like, motherfucker, I'm still on other shit. I just right this second, I'm only on test. But doesn't, you know, like, so I've come a long ways where I'm very transparent about everything in that aspect. But, you know, I don't believe in the whole, like, TRT is not a way to say that you're natty, unless you're those circumstances where, to me, I would look at it like, if you got on it because of a lack of testosterone in your body, then I wouldn't say you're natural, I guess, because you are still putting something in your body, but I wouldn't label it the same type of non-natty, because those types of people are doing it medically to make sure their testosterones are where they need to be.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say just straight up TRT.
What would you label that, though? Like, let's say I was just a normal dude. I was in my 40s and I had a decline in testosterone. I've worked out naturally my whole life, and then I went to a doctor because he told me my test levels were low. Well, that's not going to contribute to helping
That's
me.
just true.
Yeah, right?
TRT.
I mean, so that would be the true, where I can kind of still in a way say I am natural because my body is no longer producing.
I wouldn't say you're natural, because I have a friend at my gym, Travis, who went on medical TRT, like he was in the 400s or something, medical TRT. He ended up shooting up to like 1400 at one point, so they lowered his dose, but he got so much fucking stronger. I think if you're just recreationally lifting weights,
correct,
and if your doctor's super conservative and keeps you at like 700, you're still going to see benefits, though, especially as a male. You're still going to see muscle growth, enhanced libido, cognitive function, more energy, all of those great benefits. I think TRT is a wonderful thing. Do I think you're going to have the same medical consequences by doing low-dose TRT over time that's medically managed? No.
Mm-hmm.
I think those consequences, especially when you add in growth hormone of the enlarged organs, enlarged heart, liver failure, kidney failure, all the damage that can be done, that's from abuse, not just use. And I think if there was some way that we could educate people more formally, it would just be a better world, because maybe people would think twice or wouldn't take as much, or as they're seeing those consequences compound because they're getting their blood work done frequently. You know, I don't know if we had universal health care, like maybe that would be one of the only ways it could happen. I don't think gyms should provide education, because once you provide education, then you get liability, right? Just like how influencers don't want to say, I'm doing this drug and this drug. Like, I've always been transparent in telling people I do drugs when I've done, because I don't feel like it would be fair to demonstrate my results because you couldn't get them naturally.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But I wish that there was a path where people could just learn more about the total picture, both positive and negative consequences.
Well, I guess it's the same in comparison to actual other drugs, right? Like, you know, there's no way to regulate cocaine and cocaine addicts and meth addicts and all these other people that have, you know, these addictions to other drugs. So how would you really be able to regulate anything?
We do with weed.
Yeah, but I feel like that's such a different drug.
Yeah.
You know, like the side effects aren't the same.
I wish you could do it with Coke. I only did cocaine once, but it was great.
Yeah, right. I mean, I've done every drug under the sun. You know,
Yeah.
I told you that one story about that I tried meth one time.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I didn't tell you.
No.
Yeah, I
Do
told
tell,
you.
Devin. Do
Yeah,
tell.
I did tell you that story. Remember?
I don't. I don't.
Okay, you want me to tell you the story?
Yeah, I want you to tell the
Okay,
story.
okay, it's funny. It's a funny story. Okay, so one time we were out at a friend's house and it was late at night and everyone was going to do ecstasy and it was like 4 a.m. and I was just like,
That's
I'm not,
early in the morning, not late at night, but
well,
continue.
to each their own. You know, at that time that's still late at night.
Okay.
You know, and so everyone get like I had a guy had a supplier, my buddy, so he gets them all and they're in capsules, right? And for me, I usually took ecstasy, it was a hard pill, so I was like, it's 4 a.m, like I want to go to sleep, you know. And by this time, I wasn't doing drugs nearly the way that I was in my younger years, so I was like, I'll just save it for a rainy day if there was there was a time that I was going to do it. So I said, I'll just save it. So the next day, actually 2 days later, my buddy was like, dude, I haven't slept. And I'm like, it's been 2 days. Like,
Damn.
yeah, since that night, right? Obviously. So the next day they stayed awake and then into the next day. And I'm like, what the fuck? There's no way you were up still doing just ecstasy. So it was in a capsule. So I opened it and I spread it out on the counter and I'm looking at it and I'm like, that's not ecstasy. I'm like, that's got to be something else. So I'm like looking at it and I'm like putting a camera on it and I'm like flashing it and it like looks crystally. I'm like, that's crystal meth. It has to be. It's got to be. And so I look it up and I send it to my buddy and he's like, oh shit. And then he hits up his buddy and finds out it is. So I don't know if this is worse or not, but I spent that whole day just doing tiny lines of it. And
I love that for you.
and I will tell you, I understand why people are addicted to crystal meth. I was cleaning. You already know how clean I am.
Oh, yeah.
I was cleaning everything in my motherfucking
Spotless.
house. Like, you thought it was clean, bitch. That ain't clean. I'm cleaning it more. I got so much shit done in that whole day. I was like, wow, that's insane. But then I also said, what's more insane, the fact that I got so much shit done, or the fact that I willingly was doing small dosages of crystal meth just for the fact that I wanted to know what it felt like. So it was controlled. It was responsible. You know, I'm one of those things. I'm one of those people where when I started trying drugs, I tried every drug and I said to myself, if it changes who I am as a person, I will never do it again. I also wanted to feel educated on things as I was, you know, in spaces where my friends were doing drugs in high school all the time. And, you know, I just got around more of that environment. I'm like, I'm going to try it. And I have such a good willpower and stronghold in my brain that I could be on lines of cocaine and you would have no idea.
I know.
I'm just not expressive that way. And I've had a lot of friends where they drink and they want to fight me, or they have drinks and they want to go fight other people, or they do all these other things. So, you know, I was like, am I more insane that I didn't take it with them unwillingly, or more insane because I took it and I knew what I was taking, but it was controlled, right? I was just doing little bumps of it.
Little lines.
And I was just getting so much shit done. So I was like, wow, like, it's kind of insane how someone could fall into this addictive personality with, if you have one, into wanting to do that specific drug.
Every time I do a drug that makes me feel really good, I'm like, I see why people get addicted to drugs. This is scary.
And see, I can easily, after that day, I never did it again. I haven't done it since. It was just one of those, hey, I have it, let me try it, small dosages. Like when I've tried like microdosing shrooms and, you know, stuff like that, I'm like, I just want to know what it feels like so I have a better understanding if I was to ever have kids, like to be able to know, you little motherfucker, I know you're on, I know what you're on, bitch. You know, I want to be able to know those things. So, you know, experimenting with those types of things. But yeah, that was my funny little story with the crystal meth.
Thank you for sharing. And on that note, we have talked about steroids and crystal meth today.
Yeah, wow. That's that. We were not meaning to mix that, but it just goes back to the severity of, like, you know, it doesn't matter what you're taking, right? If you get heavy into anything, like I couldn't imagine not taking steroids. Like, it is a part of me, you know, and I will essentially say to myself, I would die with it. You know, that would be the one drug that if I died from it, I wouldn't have any regrets from it.
If you die from steroids, I'm going to bury you, cremate you, whatever you want. And I'm going to put, you know, he didn't mind dying from steroids.
Yeah.
Like, he's okay with this outcome.
I would want you to live in my honor.
Yes.
Yeah.
We did Steven's ashes at his funeral.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, not lines of them.
Imagine you just snorted lines. Like, that's real closeness.
It was anabolic. We put it in pre-workout. And he said, did I tell you this story?
No,
All right, my story time, and then we'll wrap it up. Steven knew he was going to die young. He knew he was going to die young. From the moment I met him, he was always like, when I die, I want you to do this. When I die, like he told me he wanted me to get 5 boyfriends. He wanted me to get fucked every day. He had all these crazy things. And one of the times we were building out the second gym. And we were eating lunch, and he's like, you know what? When I die, we were there with somebody else, looked at both of us. When I die, I want you to take my ashes, and I want you to put them in a bottle of pre-workout, shake that shit up, and I want everyone to take a scoop of me and hit the gnarliest leg day with me inside of you. So at his celebration of life, after everybody, I had 10 speakers, and we kind of like roasted him a little bit. There was like 600 people there. We had people come up, and I let them choose their symbolic scoop, one with Steven's ashes in it and one without. And put it in water, and we all did a
So it was
cheers.
like if they didn't really want to do it, they could pretend.
It was without his ashes in it.
Yeah, I'm saying like they were being a part of it, but not actually putting the ashes in there.
Yeah.
Now wait, real quick, how did that taste?
Gross. I only put 2 scoops of him in the whole container, and it was gross. Anyways, like
Somebody got his pubic hair or something in his mouth.
like 6 or 7 people went and hit a really gnarly leg day after, and
Dude,
they were like,
if that would have probably been the best leg day. Like
it was so epic.
The actual incentive that you feel from that, like the low of like having to remorse in that situation, but then also knowing deep down he's looking down on you. You better take
like
that
this was my
scoop,
dying
bitch.
wish. You better hit that fucking squat PR. And I told everybody at the funeral that that's what he wanted, and it was actually a really cool moment. Like as gross as it is, it was his wishes, but like.
Yeah, see, and you know, some of your videos that have gone viral with him, I feel like a lot of people knew him, and you know, I never met him, obviously, but you know, just some of the characteristics in which you've lived through his in his honor. It's funny, it's enjoyable, it's something that like you can look past the sadness and be able to laugh. I mean, we've had so many jokes in the short period I've known you about him, and I feel like that all just reflects who he was.
Yeah,
you know, it's like you're remorsing, but you're also embracing and enjoying what Steven had to offer as an individual. And that's something that I've always loved about your story about him is like, it's as much as it's sad in certain instances, there's so much joy and so much laughter that is around like Steven in general.
I will end and say this. If I could do it all over again, I wish that he would have chose his life over doing drugs to look the way that he looked for fucking nothing. Because at the end of the day, it took away my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't even the one who chose to do it.
Yeah, but do you think that if he would have went back, do you think he would have done that again if he had a chance to
Yes, I think he would have not done it.
Yeah, he would have
because right before he died, he had this moment where he was like, none of this is worth it. I don't ever want to do it again. I hate the way I treat you. I hate the way I treat myself. I hate the way I treat my friends. I hate the way I treat my dogs. I hate the way I show up for our business. And I hate the way that I don't show up as the man that you want me to be.
Now, when he said that, how long before?
It was like the week before he died.
Wow.
He knew that he was like, this is fucking killing me. This is fucking ruining who I am.
Yeah, so it's almost like if he would have maybe made it a little bit longer or enough, even if that was just a big enough scare.
I don't think he ever would have done it again if he would have made it through that show. There was so much going on with him.
So many red flags that were happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say before we end of this, what would you want to say to the viewers as a final thing? I know we've had a big discussion about the steroids, right? And at the end of the day, everyone's going to make their own decisions, right? They can listen to us and my side where I'm sitting here saying I'm still going to do it. And we all have those things. But I think, you know, the big underlining thing is like, what would you want to tell whoever's listening, like that final thing to them as far as the overall circumference of steroids?
I would say whether you're a male or a female, before you ingest or inject a performance-enhancing compound, make sure that you really evaluate the pros and cons, where your limit is, not where you're going to take it financially, emotionally, and physically, if this is something that you want to go into, because the short-term consequences may be now, but the long-term consequences are forever. And I think so many people just want to do it for those short-term gains to look good and feel good. But to be honest, at the end of the day, you might not look good and feel good later. So as long as you're okay and accepting of those consequences, for a female, they're going to be different than for a male. Okay, by all means, go ahead. But don't just do it to do it, and don't just listen to someone else because you think they know more than you, because you have no idea what they know or what they don't know. Just because they are the biggest dude in the gym does not mean they have any concrete, solid education on what they're telling you to do with your own body.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I couldn't agree more with that, because that is something that I think people overlook is you're going to do it anyways, right? So at least do it the right way.
Yeah.
And if I would say, if I was to go back and have the education that I feel like people do have now, I would have investigated more. And I mean, even when it comes to dieting, there was so much less education back then. There's so much now. So it's like there's no reason you can't go and find out all the ins and outs and do it the right way, because even if you do it the right way, then you're going to benefit the most in that circumstance too. So yeah, guys, with that being said, we appreciate you tuning in to our little episode. I think it was a really solid, thorough episode about just the walks of life with steroid use and everything like that. So we appreciate you guys being on our podcast on a consistent basis. We love putting out new content. So until next week, we will see you then. Close us out, baby.
Follow us on Tell No Lies Podcast Instagram, Devin Physique Instagram, Ashley Contorno Instagram, tellnolieспod.com, and Tell No Lies Podcast on YouTube, baby.
Until then, I'm going to go do another trend shot. Gotta go.
Bye.